out of 123. It is not even 29. Let's say minus the admins and me. That's we have 28 participants. 28 participants. I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't feel it's appropriate for us to have less than 10% of participants in a class of 123. I mentioned it last week, and I felt that people must have discussed that in your groups. And this is even not as much as we had last week. Group leaders. I want each group leader to unmute and talk. How many group leaders do we have here today? I will mark attendance today by group leaders.
Group 3, we are here, sir.
If you are a group leader, let me know you are here. Group what?
Group 3, Inshallah Samuel. I'm here, sir.
Okay.
Group 1, I'm here.
Group 1.
Group 7 is here.
Group what?
Group 7 is here, sir. Madojemo.
Group 7.
Yes.
Group 5 is here.
Group
6 is here. No, I'm not the group leader, but I'm here from group 7.
Group leader.
Okay, sir. No, I'm not the group leader.
Okay.
Group 6 is here. Group leader.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Group 10, Olufunke Yeniyi is in class.
Group 10?
Yes, sir.
Which other group?
Group 5 is here, sir.
What's your name?
Group 5, Dadalu Ashim.
Okay. Which other group is here?
Group 2 is here, but I'm not the group leader, sir.
Oh.
I said leader, group leader.
I've also mentioned, sir, but I'm not the group leader in group 1.
Group leader now.
All right, sir. All right.
I want to hear group leader representing each group.
All right, sir.
I just have 6 groups here now. I have just 3 groups here.
Group 8 is here, but I'm not the group leader.
I want group leader.
Okay.
I have 3, 4, 5, 6. Group 1, group 3, group 7, group 6, group 10, group 5. Okay. Well, I'm sure you meet with your group. Other group leaders that are not here. Maybe I begin to sanction people now so that they will take attending classes serious. Okay, can group 3 remind us one thing that we have talked about during the last 2 classes? Group 3. Remind us of one of the things that we have discussed.
Their group leaders are not in class. That means they did not come to the class. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Does that mean that others are in class and their group leaders are not in class? That means they're not in class.
Yeah, they are not in the class now. If group leader cannot motivate their students to be in class, their group members to be in class, I don't know what you discussed.
not compulsory that we are in class together, sir. We that are in class, we have a justification for it.
I believe that each group has their own platform where they meet. Not so. Each group will have their platform where they meet. And it should be one of the things that you discuss during your meetings.
No matter what, it cannot be a justification that others are in class.
Okay. Please, can you mute your mic, please? Or let everybody mute their mic, please. Okay, today we'll be starting our discussion, very brief discussion, from problems faced by social workers. I believe we've talked extensively on the principle and ethics of social work, and we have been able to take on accountability of social workers. We've talked on various issues concerning accountability, and today we'll be discussing or starting our discussion from problems faced by social workers in ethical decision making. Please, if your mic is still open, can you please mute it? If your mic is on, please mute it, please. Like I said, we've talked extensively on ethical principles of social work. We've talked about the principles. We've talked about accountability. We want to go further by discussing what problems are faced by social worker in ethical decision making. And like we said previously, that ethical decision making is a very difficult one in any society, and it can result in adverse consequences for the social workers. As we face our responsibilities as social workers, we tend to make decisions one way or the other, or at every point in time that we have our intervention with service users, we see ourselves making some decisions, crucial decisions that will make us to gauge whether we are in line or not in line, whether we are tuned or not in tune, or whether we are behaving rightly or not behaving rightly. I would say there is a thin line between this ethical decision. Why? Because we are human beings, because we are looking at the welfare of others, and because we are looking at a position where each and everyone, both service users and the social worker, are in a comfortable position to be able to address issues as raised by the service users. So that brings us into a position where we critically need to look at ourselves, look at our postures, look at our decisions, and look at each and every line of our statements to ensure that we conform with what ought to be within the confine of our practice. So we will discover that social workers may have to suffer some losses because of each of our decisions more often than not. That is, wherever we see ourselves erring, wherever we see ourselves not measuring at par to what our responsibilities ought to have been, or to our engagement with the service user, we discover that some of the issues confronting us will be some loss of interest, some loss of desire, some loss of engagement capacity, and sometimes some loss of position. So we'll be looking at some of those losses that could happen, or some of those things that could happen as a result of the issues that confront us during our engagement with services, which of a fact could mean that something is going wrong, or something's going wrong from the services angle, will also mean a mismanagement at the social workers angle. And there's a lot of things that we need to consider, or there are a lot of things that makes us to be in certain position, whether as individual, whether in our engagement, whether in our agency, in our state, in our nation, in our professional body, or whatsoever. There's so much that a social worker have to look at when decisions are being made, or when it's intervening in the crisis or the challenges of service users. Number one of those challenges or problems that social workers face is one, crisis of values in Nigerian society. All of us know what is happening now in Nigerian society. We know how the economy is biting. We know how social vices and ills are biting. And each and every one of us are responsible for whatsoever is happening within the state of the nation. So the crisis of value in Nigerian society may, of course, also affect social workers in the discharge of their responsibility. And because of the crisis value in the system or in the society, that should not mean that we will not be who we ought to be to our service users, or perform accountably, or perform ethically, or perform responsibly to our service user. You know, we said from the first lecture, we said there's normative ethics and the meta ethics. This is an area now where we are looking at a meta ethics that is responsible outwardly, externally, on the normative ethics, which is the value, the principle, and the kind of attitude that social workers have. And because this is external, we have no excuse not to be able to perform as we ought to be. So many social scientists have also commented on the crisis of values in Nigerian society. Values of honesty, propriety, concern for others, accountability among government officials and corporations are seen as lacking in Nigerian society. And according to some researchers, so the crises are caused because we are forgetting our ancient values. We are forgetting our ancient values. You remember when we're talking about ethics, we talked about the fact that social work is practiced within a culture, within tradition, within people. And so because of that, we have to be culturally competent. And we look at what have been from the ancient time to the modern time. And because culture is also dynamic, what was then may not be what is now, and may not be what will be tomorrow. And because of that, the value system of yesterday may not be the same value system of today, and may not even be that of tomorrow, because society is always dynamic. And for others, crisis of value are being caused because Nigerian society is still undergoing the modernization process. So social workers have to live and work in such situations and are naturally affected. If some people, like the last decade, they will tell you, oh, that last decade is better than this decade. And this decade is full of so many social vices that we have not seen in the last decade. And some people will tell you, well, last decade or 2 decades ago is better now. Now, how can you say it's better now? Number one, were you there when it was happening? And those who were there when the last decade was there and very rosy and good, you will discover that what age, let's take education, for example. At what age do people go to primary school in the last 2 or 3 decades? What age do people go to school within this decade? You will discover that the gap is so wide. I could remember in my own secondary school, even primary school, I saw people who were much, much older than me in primary school. In secondary school, I saw Babas in class with me. And today, situation is different. You will see a child of an adolescent of about 10 years or 9 years in secondary school. And you see about 15 years in the university, 16 years in the university. So you see the value have changed. The premium to life has changed and living. And what each and every one of us lay premium on is different from the past society. And you want to use the last society to judge this society or this society to judge the incoming society. No, it does not work. So all this also affects a person or somebody whose value system is traditional and a person whose value system is modern. And you want to look at 2 people within this dispensation of traditional and modern society and be able to judge them in the same way. You cannot. So all these crises affect social workers. And that is why we need to develop ourselves and be attuned with what happens, even though we know that what had happened in the past could also have a good impact on what is happening now. But we have to be able to measure up to what we have presently. And if you look at the law of those dispensation and the law of this dispensation, if you don't get yourself attuned to what is in vogue now, you will not be able to render some form of intervention or the other to those of these dispensations. So the crisis of values in Nigerian society affects social workers as well, and even as much as it affects people who are not social workers as well. So but we have to be very careful in the way we relate to issues when we see certain things happening in the lives of others or in our profession, basically. In the last 10 years in the social work profession, what we have is beginning to change. There's beginning to be a shift now. Why? Because of the act that was signed making social work a profession. So because of that, you cannot just practice the way you like. It's no longer common sense practice as it used to be. People may not call you to account in the past, but now people will be calling you to account. Service users may not be coming back to our facility to tell us what we did with them was wrong and sue us and do a litigation with us. But now there is avenue for that by virtue of that act. Why? Because the act is a law that has been passed by the Federal Republic of Nigeria and is there in the Supreme Court. So because of that, you can be sued, you can sue, and you can be sued. So those crises are such that makes social workers have some ethical challenges one way or the other. Number 2 is voluntary association as a money-making venture. You agree with me that so many people who are not even social workers are making it more than those who are social workers. Why? Because they have the way with that to form an association or to form an initiative or a foundation like that, and because they have people who back them up, or they have knowledge of grant or proposal writing, and they were able to win some grant and all those things. And you see what has been happening in the nation, that even if 10 or 20%, or let's say 40% of what they receive from funding partners are put on the project, you see that things will be different. And you see, that is why the government also have to come in, scrutinizing funding that comes from abroad or from even within. And that's why EFCC also is interested, because many of the association or initiative were ways of siphoning money, and ways of money laundering, and ways of personal enriching of self and family. So, and they have seen this, they've seen this social work enterprise as a means of making money, cool money that you don't struggle for that much will come. And because of that, many people are looking at social work or social workers as being people who are rich, especially professional social workers. They think they are that rich, like those people who are getting funding. And that is why we also need to brace up those of us who are professional, incoming professionals, to also be able to write proposals, write projects, and get funding to do the right thing. If those who are not professionals are doing the wrong thing, then the professionals should go into it squarely and ensure that they get the right thing. Why? Because it is those who are doing the wrong thing that they will use in naming you that are professionals. So it's also a challenge, because voluntary associations act as money they see social work as money making ventures. So we need to look deep into that, so that what ought to be an opportunity for us, what ought to be an advantage to us, does not become disadvantage to us. And of course, not just this, those who are even working with the ministry department and agencies who are being paid directly by the government also are not making things easier. We have seen areas or places where you see clothes were donated to the vulnerables, and then those who are on social work desks will carry it and go and give it to their children. Food will be given to agencies, and they will carry the food and go and give it to their family. Computer will be given for empowerment, and they will carry half of it. So all this becomes problematic.
I'll call back later. Thank you.
All these are problem areas that confront social work, and they are all ethical issues that needs to be addressed. Number 3, lack of common perspective in social work related issue. And in many ways, Nigeria is a state of transition. You agree with me? All developing nations are transiting now, and we believe that all is going to be well. So certain issues relating to individual autonomy, collective orientation, individual rights and responsibilities are difficult to resolve in any society. So Nigerian society as one may be caught up between traditional and modern forces, which faces a number of problems related to such issues as mentioned. And also, different groups are influenced by westernization to varying degrees. And because of all these problems for social workers in interpersonal relationships, so you will discover that lack of common perspective in social work related issues also affect social workers. What happens to one happens to all. The problem of one is also the problem of other. But when we take common stand, common right, remember I spoke to us about triage. Is one of the issues that social work have to take on squarely to ensure that we have uniformity of service, that we have services that people can reckon with and not guesswork and not street work and not common sense work or layman principles that are being put forward in our practice. So when we have a common perspective, we have common model, we have common principles, we have common theories that we apply to different issues, and we come out with tangible, concrete hypotheses and results, we will discover that people will begin to see, oh, this is actually a scientific profession. But where you see that things are not coherent, results are not coherent, are not the same, given any same situation, you will discover that the practice will be one way that may cause some form of catastrophe or the other. So lack of common perspective is a very definite area that is a problem of ethics in the social work profession. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Sir, we are
Yes,
together,
sir. We are
sir.
hearing you, sir. We are here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So number 4,
We are with you, sir.
powerlessness of powerlessness of the social worker. Even that the social workers, in many cases, intend to do the work with decency, but lacks the power to do so. There are other institutions and authorities on which the social workers have to depend on while facing difficult situations. Their methods of functioning are very often found to be different from that of the social workers. And sometimes there are problems of lack of accountability, the negligence of staff, vested interest, and also the presence of criminal in the welfare institutions also causes a lot of problems. So the social workers have no choice but to go along with this as he or she has no power to change the situation. What we're saying is that you will discover that in every agency they have their goals, they have their aims, they have their objectives. And we also mentioned earlier in some lectures that many areas where social workers work, they are not definite social work agencies, but you find social workers there, and they also must abide with ethics of their own profession. Whereas, let's take, for example, social workers in the judicial system. The judicial system has its own law, they have their own rules. If you're a social worker who find yourself in the judicial arm of the social work practice, you discover that you are faced with two rules, two forms of ethics, which you must abide to. You're a social worker that find yourself in the medical social work profession, you working in health sector, you will know automatically that the health sector has its own rules, has its own plans, has its own ethics, and then the social workers working within that ethics also have its own. And you know that you are working within the multidisciplinary team of health workers, that you will not infringe on the ethics of others or infringe on the services of others. You must be able to distinguish your own service from another. And in between this, you must be able, because that thin line, you must be able to know where your own goals, objectives, services starts and ends, and where other also start and end. And within this, you are crossing and they are also crossing. There is boundary crossing into your space, you have boundary crossing into their space, and all these boundary crossing are matter of ethics. So all this boundary crossing, you must know where it ends so that you stay within your own bound, and each other profession also stay within their own bounds. But there is a general ethics, but there's a general rule and general principle that connects all the health workers together. So sometimes you want to apply yours, but the general one says no. So you enter into an ethical dilemma. So that also, that in its own causes an infringement or a limitation to what you can do sometimes. But when you are ethically alert and you are able to look at different principles of other professions or the overall principle of the ministry, department, or agency, you will be able to meander through the issue of ethics. We have said that the issue of ethics sometimes could be very delicate. It could be very, very tough. But then we must be able to look at each of the service users that we are engaging with and standing within our own space. And when you are to apply other ones, you'll be looking at the general principle or the general ethics of that profession that you can bring into your own profession and ensure that there is no conflict and that your own ethics does not hinder a person services that are benefiting optimally from the overall provision of the ministry, department, or agency that you are working in. We are saying this is a problem. Why? Because it could be very, very dicey sometimes, and it also demands wisdom. It is not in totality powerlessness of social workers, but in totality a matter of wisdom to be applied and intelligence to be applied, and then be able to study to know that which is your own strength and how you can apply your strength to get the best for your own service users. But how be it, we will say that it could mean that it slows down some procedures where you need to have fast track some issues for your service users. Number 5, lack of support from the civil society. We said in Nigeria, the social work profession is struggling to gain the attention and recognition from the government and society at large. The misdeeds of a few social workers, many of them not even professionals. Sadly, Nigerian society does not distinguish between professional and voluntary social workers. You agree that with me? And these have contributed to the loss of image and the moral authority of social workers, except for now that we begin to build up the image that we have that is there for us as social workers, so that we begin to intelligently and in transparency and in modesty and with all the professional acumen that we have, work to ensure that our profession gets to a place of primacy or gets to a place of to an enviable height. It is the work for you, it is the work for me, it is the work for all of us to build that image, because like I said before, teens or people who work on social work desk, or those who were not social workers who were just using that to siphon money or enrich themselves, have dent the image, and we need to build our own image by being true professionals. Number 6, lack of professional bodies and professional support. The existence of a professional body can give the much needed training and support for social work professionals. Secondly, if any social worker is being harassed legitimately, raising relevant issues, the professional body can give him or her support. This will enable social workers to take up public causes without fear. Like I said at the last our last engagement that professional bodies and associations are very important in the formation and in the strengthening of the profession. Thank God we have gotten one. We are now a profession. We have professionals now in Nigeria, which we are coming into as well. Number two, those pressure groups that need to fight for our rights when something goes wrong with us or when something goes on with our profession are the associations that needs to take on that supportive role for social workers and for the profession. That is why I encourage us. Last week, those who are in the medical should join the medical. Those who are in Ministry of Health should join NASO. Those who are within other sphere, they just very soon now, you know, we're having military, we're having the police, civil defense, Air Force. They are already coming into the profession. And we have so many civil defense who are already members of the institutes. They are there. Very soon, they will form their own paramilitary or military or uniform body of social workers. Very soon, in the next 5 years, I know that will come up. So, other units also will need to come up with their own pressure group to fight for those who are of like minds or who are in the same mini profession that each one of them belongs to. They will have to come together so that they can fight for the rights of their members. They can support their members when they are having issues, challenges, difficulties. They can fight for them when other people rises against them. So it is a normal, it's one of the things that is still hindering social workers in Nigeria as we speak. So, but we believe that that will be a thing of the past when everyone have become fully full professionals who can say, yes, I have my license, I'm a practitioner. Then, because of that, those of us in this area of practice will come together, we form an association. Those of us who are in this, so there will still be all that. So we see that as lack of professional bodies and association or professional support. Number 7, lack of importance given to studying and discussing professional ethics. You will discover that the issue of ethics, where in the past, people just, maybe even in the university, maybe one course. I know that in my school, in 5 years of studying social work, it's just one course. And that course is in 200 level. That is called ethics and principles of ethic, values and principles of social work. It's just 2 hours course for a semester. So is that enough addressing the issue of ethics? No. Because the issue of ethics is very, very deep and wide. And because of that, that is why this has been given also a primacy in this SWPCE, so that we continue to talk about the issue of, because the issue of ethics talks about the issue of habits. It talks about not only habits, knowledge and skills that should be acquired. And when you acquire knowledge and you acquire skill, the habits that you need to put on for you to be a practitioner par excellence, a practitioner that will not jeopardize the profession and jeopardize the interest of the servicer, needs to be taught and needs to continuously be taught, because it is one, you attend training on ethics upon training, training upon training, training upon training. It will not end, and that is when it sticks. And we want the issue of ethics to actually stick to us, so that as we practice, we will not be having difficulties in our practice. And I want to assure you that at each point, even at the time when you will be inducted, the issue of ethics will still be raised. When you are taking your oath of membership, the issue of ethics in the oath will still be raised. So it's a continuum, and it has to be given the due sense of importance. So we've mentioned 7 problems faced by social workers in ethical Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We are with you.
Yes, sir. We are
Yes,
here.
we are with you.
Yes, sir. We are.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So having looked at the problems, while we are discussing the issue of the problem, we talk about boundaries, crossing boundaries and the likes like that. So, and I said boundaries also are issues of ethics and values. So we are going to be looking at boundaries. We're going to be looking at boundaries. What do you understand by boundaries? We're talking about professional boundaries, social work professional boundaries. So professional boundaries are a set of guidelines, expectations, and rules which set the ethical and technical standards in the social care environment. They set limits for safe, acceptable, and effective behaviors of social workers or care workers. I want to repeat that. Professional boundaries are a set of guidelines, expectations, and rules which set the ethical and technical standards in the social care environment. They set limits for safe, acceptable, and effective behavior of social workers or caregivers. So, maintaining professional boundaries in social work is essential to helping your clients and upholding the standard of your profession. Social work is a profession built on interpersonal interactions, and social work assumes that helping people who struggle with poverty, trauma, oppression, mental illness, or other disadvantages is necessary for a functioning society, because social work often involves sustained interaction with individual clients, and it is imperative that you establish professional boundaries with your clients. I remember about 3 or 4 lectures ago, we talked about the issue of setting boundaries at the beginning of your intervention with your service users. I remember we did mention that when we develop rapport in our communication, we are expected to foremost establish boundaries between us, social worker, and our service users. And it is very important. It's a rule, it's a set of rules. It's an area where you mention who you are and you mention the kind of service or intervention you provide and the kind of things that are allowable and things that are disallowable in the course of building rapport or in the course of your engagement with the service users or the significant others or those whom you are inviting within the course of that intervention to answer some question or interview in the course of that engagement. The service user set boundaries when they have significant others who also are invited. You set further boundaries. When you invite others to be interviewed within the engagement, you also set other boundaries so that there could be calmness, so that they don't infringe or enter your space and you don't enter their space. So that what they are allowed to say is what they say, and what they are not allowed to say is they don't say it. Like, for example, saying something like in abusive format is not acceptable in intervention. Somebody may be angry but not abusive. Or somebody, because he's angry, standing up to slap his own child. It has happened to me in the course of my intervention before. It was to be an intervention between a child, a girl, and the father, which also involved the siblings. And during that intervention, because the father was angry, stood up, slapped the child. We said that was crossing of boundary. That father in that engagement have crossed his own boundaries, and it wasn't acceptable. It wasn't. So that shows who he was. But maintaining decorum during intervention is very critical. Is very and not for somebody to what do they call it? Some people will just want to oppress you or oppress your service user. Some people will come because they are wealthy or because they are rich and this and that, because they have influence, social influence, and the like that. They want to threaten the service users, or they want to threaten the social worker as well to do the wrong thing or to misjudge. So all those things are matters of boundaries that need to be set before you go into outright intervention. So boundary violations are a major concern in social work. The primary issue with boundaries has to do with the power differential between the professional and the service users. Power differential. Perhaps the best known of boundary violation is that of a professional seducing the patient or seducing the service user or the clients. Other issues related to boundaries might concern the sharing of personal information with the service user. The social worker must be careful not to allow personal needs to distract from the therapeutic relationship or intervention engagement. Sharing a personal cell phone or home telephone number or inviting the service user into the social worker's home are examples of boundary violation. So ethical issues related to professional boundaries are common and complex, similar to a Rubik cube. The issue of multifaceted and rarely do not or do all the sides line up correctly. So you discover that in Rubik cubes, all the angles does not align together. Why? Because each one is different, shape and sizes. So professional and boundaries in social work and other helping professions are limits in the therapeutic relationship that the provider is responsible to establishing and maintaining. So social workers must understand what professional boundaries are and identify poor ones. They must also take steps to create healthy boundaries from the very beginning of the intervention engagement. Somebody is distracting us by unmuting. Can you please mute your mic, please? So let's look at how do we establish rules of contact? How do we establish rules of engagement? Number one, tell your client what numbers to call in a crisis situation. In every social work agency or office, there must always be, who is this disturbing us now? The person is hearing me and you know that your mic is on. Mute it, please. There must be official numbers that is given to the public. Modupe Kasumu, you are not listening to this lecture. You are distracted. If you are not listening to these lectures, you are distracted. Ifeoma Okere, you are not listening, you are distracted. Or where you need some money, you are also distracted because your mics are on. Yes. Modupe Kasumu, I will remove you from this platform.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. This is the phone. My mic is not on. No.
It was on. Mute it now. Mute. Let me see. Mute your mic.
It's okay, sir. Thank you.
Ifeoma, your mic is still on. Ifeoma, your mic is still on. Like I was saying, social workers don't give their personal lines to the public, or they don't give their personal lines to their service users. It is always advisable, it is always advised that there should be office or official lines given to, because of that, when a service enters the office, that official line should be displayed so that you can be called, or they can also see it and also copy it and call you when they have need for you officially. And again, official line saves you from being a point of target to evil people. So you don't become soft targets to evil people. So ensure that one of the social work or social workers tool is a cell phone, not your personal cell phone. Except if you are working as independent social work practitioners. And even at that, you must have your official, not being used and being displayed, not your personal line. And there must be time that your service users can call you, except for those who are from the public calling for the first time to report something or the other. Number two, refrain from giving out your personal contact information. Number three, protect your privacy on social media. Protect your privacy on social media. Number four, maintain confidentiality. Those are the first rule of engagement, the rule of contact that has to do with your personal information. Number two, Demonstrating clear interpersonal behavior. Number one is to establish clear physical boundaries. Clear physical boundaries. Number two is to dress appropriately, not provocatively. Number three is to use appropriate language at all times, not irresponsible languages. Number four is to refrain from discussing your personal life with service users. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we are with you, sir.
Yes, sir, we are with you, sir.
We are with you, sir.
Okay. The next form of boundary is avoiding dual relationships. From there, we have watch for conflict of interest. I think we have explained this aspect in the last lecture or so. Number two is prohibit sexual relationship with your clients or formal clients. Number three, decline to enter into financial relationship with your clients. Those are issues of boundaries. Now we have number three is avoiding dual. Okay, we've talked about avoiding dual relationship. Fine. Okay. Now the next thing we talk about is boundary crossing. When does boundary crossing, when does it apply? When does boundary crossing apply? When do we say somebody has crossed his boundaries? One, boundary crossing occurs when a social worker is involved in a dual relationship with service users or colleague that is not intentionally exploitative, manipulative, deceptive, or coercive. Boundary crossing are not inherently unethical, such as when a social worker shares personal information to help clients work through their own issues. Three, it is never acceptable to take advantage of vulnerable people or abuse your position of authority. But when the aim is to get to know someone, to build up trust or offer help and support, then it is not always clear where the professional boundaries lies. Four, the motivations may be entirely honorable, but due to inexperience or over-involvement, the social worker crosses a professional boundary, leaving them open to allegation of misconduct. Five, being open about your action is good advice. It gives colleagues and your supervisor the authority to point out how your actions could be misconstrued by the client or significant others. If you do not feel comfortable sharing what you are doing, then you are probably not doing what is right. Why must we maintain clear boundaries? One, because it protects service users during the therapeutic process. Number two, it protects the clients from exploitation. Number three, it protects social workers from liabilities of facing the law courts. I think those are things that we need to look at critically and read more on our own. So let's talk and we'll end with a boundary violation. Next week, we'll go into Next week we'll go into ethical boundary violation. Anyway, I think we need to stop from where we are so that we can go deeply into boundary. But when we talk about boundaries, we want to talk about the violation of these boundaries now. But that is where we should focus more. Many of us know what boundaries are. We know when you cross boundaries, even on normal grounds at home, we know all those things. But what about the ethical boundaries violation? And that is where we need to stress. I would like to take time to stress on ethical boundary violation. What we have discussed about boundary is the general boundary violation that we may have known or we may have come across, but we will go deeper into what the ethical violation of boundaries are. Hello? So you understand now? So I think we need to stop here so that we round up this course by next week, God willing. Or round up the issue of boundary violation next week. So if you have any questions, if you have any contribution or confession, you may unmute and raise it.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you for today's lecture. I have a couple of questions. My name is Bemi Akitunde. When you were talking about problems faced by social workers, you mentioned lack of professional bodies and professional support. So I know C-ISOWN is just newly formed, and you made mention of some other multi-level organizations that will eventually come up, like civil defense, social workers, and all of that. So my question is, at present now in C-ISOWN, are there some emerging problems that have officially been reported by social workers? So it could be issues of whether what's it called now? In offices, whether maltreatment, physical or abusive. So I just want to know if there are some emerging problems that social workers that are registered with C-ISOWN have submitted to your office. Then the second question that I have is for you to break down. I know in one of your lectures you've done this, but I need further clarification. The difference between C-ISOWN and NASOWN. The difference between C-ISOWN and NASOWN. So why this is because there has been like a kind of debate that one is higher than the other and all of that. So I need you to clarify that. So those are my two questions. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. As far as I'm concerned, except for those who are in the headquarters who receive information, I may not know, but if people who are facing some challenges or problems in their or ethical challenges in their organizations or ministry, department, or agency, if they have written, that will need the top management and the disciplinary committee to look into it. There are committees that the law set up that will look into all those. So if there's none, you will not have redress, or you will not have people being called to order. So for now, I don't know whether anybody have written to that effect. I wouldn't know. But if such have been done, it will be taken up by the concerned officers who are in charge of that. We have a legal team, and we have those in charge of such discipline and things like that. So I may not be able to tell you that one here, except if you want to make research and you write to the office and ask this question, they may be able to give you the statistic of what has been, what people have done. I hope you understand. So I'm not in the headquarters, even though I'm a volunteer in the headquarters. I live in Enugu. So that's, many of us are dispersed like that. But those who get information coming from outside are the headquarters staff. They are the ones who know. I may not know. And I'm not in any of those committees that are responsible for that. It is when it has been escalated and it comes to the open that we will know. So I wouldn't know. So the second thing that you want me to differentiate between C-ISOWN and NASO. We've said this a number of times. At the beginning, when we were doing orientation, we said it. In the course of my lecture, we have been mentioning it. There is no one is greater than the other. And in fact, C-ISO is a body that the law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria established. NASO was established by individuals who came together to form an association. And association also comes together to team up with them to make it what they call umbrella body, representing the body of social workers. Those who are ordinarily, those who are practicing are those who are supposed to be members of NASO. Those, wherever you are, whether you are in the military, you are social workers, you are licensed, you are in the education, you are social worker, you are licensed, you are in a school, you are social worker, you are licensed, industries, you are social worker, you are licensed, in medical, you are social worker, you are licensed. Those are the people that can vouch to the fact that they are members of that association. And how can they become members of that association? They must first become members of C-ISO and are so licensed by C-ISO that they can practice for this year or next year. Our license is for 2 years. That you have valid license of practice. That is what makes you a practitioner. Anyone that does not have a license is a quack. Whoever is a director is a quack. Whoever he is, he may have a PhD, is a quack. That is why even in accreditation of university, they will ask for license. Every profession is like that. What do they call it? Medical profession is like that. Accountancy, they are like that. The physiotherapists, they are like that. P&O, they have their licenses that are valid between 1 or 2 years. If you don't have that license, you have no business practicing. If you are caught, you can be jailed or surcharged, and you'll be published in the newspaper. So C-ISO is a kind of gateway to the social work practice in Nigeria, because that is our specialization, to ensure that the knowledge, the skills of the practice, the governing of the practice is set by C-ISO. So say the law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. NASO do not have any law backing them. They are association. The highest they can do is to register with CAC. So the same as you to whether SWPCE, the medical body, that's SWPCE, NASO, whether they are even independent practitioners, practice, military practice, paramilitary practice, community development practitioners, and things like that. They are associations. And what gives them the blood to run is C-ISO. So because that is what the law gave to us to do with social work practice and practitioners in Nigeria. So there's no law that set up NASO, there's no law that set up SWPCE, there's no law that set up SWPCE, there's no law that set up all these associations. They are associations. But the professional body that the government recognized is C-ISO, because the law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is what set it up to be able to govern social work practice in Nigeria and to license practitioners in Nigeria. That is our duty. So everybody will maintain his own lane. All this conflict of and so is doing this, umbrella body, ISO is doing this, they are not supposed to be doing it. All those ones, what against what? The federal government says, see, ISO, we give you this is what you should do. So everyone that must be part of these associations must come through C-ISO to be trained and licensed to practice. That's when you can say you are a member of that association. So people who are members of that association without having come through C-ISO and being licensed by C-ISO, they are quacks. He may be the president of NASO. He's still a quack. He may be the secretary of AMSWON. You don't have such a C-ISO license, you are still a quack. You may be an ASWON, a professor in the university, that you don't have license, because social work is a practice profession and academics, and you cannot pass accreditation without having it as we speak now. You will not get through. So that is what it is, and that is what the law says, and that is what the law says. So one is not greater than the other. What the law says we should do is what we are doing, and what they also craft for themselves to be doing as association is what they are doing as approved by CAC. So you see now, and many of our members are in NASO, many of our members are in AMSWON, many of C-ISO members who are licensed are in ASWEN. I belong to ASWEN because I am a lecturer in the university. So I practice, I have my license. So we have our members who are in AMSWON. They have their license. So for those who don't have theirs, well, the time of reckoning shall come, and it's coming very soon. Thank you very much. I hope I've answered your question.
Question, sir.
I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Hello, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Another question.
My name is Madoje Musa.
Okay.
We've learned a lot about ethical practices in social work. You've also taught us about boundaries. These do's and don'ts in social welfare, in social work, we've all learned. What happens if a client violates your own rights or crosses boundary? Do you have the right to sue such clients? Does the practice empower you to sue a client that violates you or crosses boundary? Like in the case of theft, maybe sexual abuse, or even physical combat. Do you have such rights under the Constitution to prosecute or to arrest or to whatever, to take it up with the person that has violated your own rights as a social worker?
Okay. It depends. Well, you know, when I started, I said the first thing is this setting of boundaries. It must be clear. But where boundaries are crossed by service users, there is wisdom to handle issues. Is it intentional? Is it unintentional? But the ones that are intentional, like sexual harassment, it should be reported. It should be documented before. That is why the social work, where did the violation take place? Is it in the office of the social worker? So what did the social worker do when such was happening within the office? Did he raise alarm? Did he call security? And all that? Or did the violation occur when he went on a home visit to the social workers? I mean, to the client? In that case, did the social worker go alone to the client's house? Why should the social worker go, if he must go for aftercare visit, a social worker don't go alone. So how will such happen? If such even happen, it will be in the presence of another person. Was it planned with that other person? So there are things that are already guides. But a social worker who now goes to visit his service user at home, a female social worker who goes to visit a male client at home, knows that even she is the one crossing the boundary of the client. Why? Why must you go alone? Don't you have colleagues that you go with, who is a male or a female? There was an issue of a social worker who went, a therapeutic social worker who went and visited a client, suicidal client. He was alone. She went there. And this client left and climbed the rail and jumped down, died. Who will say that it is not that social worker that pursued her for her to have jumped the rail and jumped through the balcony? Nobody was there to defend the social worker. Why? Because she went alone. If there were two, there would have been more guard. Even when one is not too vigilant, the other may be more vigilant to see what was happening and what the service intend doing. So before you can take a case against your service user, you must ensure that you have done everything to ensure that that did not happen. You must ensure that you have enough protection. You must ensure that it's before others. Or you are the one that is carefree. You ask your service user to come and visit you at home. And some things happen, whether theft or whatsoever. Will you say it? Will you go and tell your supervisor that your client came to your house to steal something from your house? How did he get to your house? You know, we said that even your phone number should not be disclosed. Your house should not be disclosed. That is why in social work office, you don't display the picture of your wife. You don't display the picture of your children in your office because they can be soft targets. Because you are too much in love, you are displaying where your husband and you are crossing your neck, and then you display because you are a lover girl or a lover boy. Or because you are a good mother, you have children, you now display it. No, you don't do it in social work office. So those are the things. You must be able to prove beyond reasonable doubt as a social worker that you are not the one that caused this by yourself. That is why I said there's a thin line between ethics and ethical boundary. Thin line. So you, in your own space, you must make sure that it is well protected. When your own space is well protected, even if the person has mental challenge and he sees two persons visiting him, and if that thing came upon him to be violent, two people can be able to hold him down. And if they're not able to hold him down, at least both of them will know. They will, when one is being endangered, one will run out to call for help. So social workers must protect themselves and harm themselves with all these things we are talking about. And for you to go and sue your clients, it must be forced beyond reasonable that it must first have passed through your supervisors. Your agency must also know that this thing is something that needs to be taken up. Are we together? Have I answered your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening,
sir.
Yes,
sir. Good
evening.
evening. My name is Adefumilola Aziz. Yeah, I have just one question. I just want to know if C-ISOWN is recognized internationally or just in Nigeria? Just like, because I heard NASO is recognized internationally.
Okay, you keep bringing me to social work politics.
Sorry, sir.
The issue of practice is within a boundary. Okay. You know we are talking about boundary now.
Yes, sir.
The issue of social work practice is within a boundary. The law of Nigeria does not work in Ghana. Even in Republic of Benin, the law of Nigeria will not work in Republic of Benin. I think I even mentioned this during the last lecture. So the law of Nigeria that set up the social work practice in Nigeria is different from the law of Republic of Benin, if there's one, that sets social work practice up over there. And one cannot infringe on the other. What we are doing now, if they start it in Cotonou, in Republic of Benin, if they have a law for the social work practice, and social workers in Nigeria wants to go and practice in Republic of Benin, he must succumb to the laws that set up social work practice in Nigeria. Like if you look at our law, any person who is coming from outside Nigeria to come and work in Nigeria must go through what you are going through now. It's dole, he must go through it. Or if there are expatriates in Nigeria presently working in Nigeria, they must also go through this same procedure for them to be licensed to practice. Even though you cannot license another national, we give them temporal license. It is there in the law. So that one is recognized nationally, is not recognized nationally. That one is those who don't know the issue of the law that will keep raising that. If you are talking about International Federation of Social Workers, it is associations as well. The law of IFSW does not apply in Nigeria, has nothing to do with Nigeria, but has something to do with cross-border relationship. Cross-border, there are cross-border social workers that works across borders. So the law of IFSW operates. And IFSW is not a single man body. It's a body set up by conglomerate of associations all over the world. Are you getting me now? And because of that, there are national bodies like NASO who represent Nigeria in IFSW. That does not make them internationally recognized than ISO. Just go out and practice and go and give them NASO certificates. Say that's your practice. They will ask you, they will tell you no. They will tell you, go to a professional body and go bring license from a professional. We have seen many like that. So we know that many people are thinking that NASO certificate, this certificate is what will make them to practice, and they don't see what the government have done. I don't know what the problem is. I pray the eyes of people will be open and just calm down and do the right thing. So, if any nation wants to deal with us, that nation will write us. That, okay, we are social workers from this nation. We want to know the extent of your process or procedure of your practice in Nigeria. They will write. And then we'll respond to them, which we have been doing from Australia, from Canada, from UK. They've been writing to us. I have been giving information. Why? Because our membership certificate and license are now going outside. Others are practicing. But that does not mean that you not still go and write the exam. You still go and write the exam in that nation. Except if they now look, if they are the committee in charge of their education in their but now looks at what we do and look at the courses that are taken before people are inducted and are licensed. They look at it, they are satisfied with it. Then you can say, okay, we give them waiver on this, on this, on this, to write this or that. Or they may even say, well, they can practice straight. They license them in their nation. And so once you present Nigeria license, if that's what they have taken as a standard, they just license you. If that working relationship, that is how law operates. It is not the wish of people. The law is not people's wish. It has passed that to become the law of the nation that the federal government have signed. So all that one I talk. So that is how the law operates. I hope I've been able to answer you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, the last question.
Question, sir.
The last one.
Okay, sir. Still under the rules of engagement, you told us that we should not give our personal contact number to our clients and all those stuff, that we should give the official number and display in the office. But I realized that most of the clients want to have that kind of personal rapport with the service provider. Now, if I understand you very well, it means that there must be an intermediary between the client and the service provider, so that if there's any message from the clients, then the maybe personal assistant will be able to relate it now to the substantive service provider. Is that what you are trying to
No, that is not what I'm
us?
saying, sir. No, that is not what I'm saying.
Okay.
Now, in every social work establishment,
yes, sir.
Now, when clients come in, they first get to the reception. The reception has a number, a call-through number that people will call. Then those who have come in, they have one challenge or the other, they go through the first desk officer, the inner of the outer social worker. They interface with them and brief them, not in full, what they came for, what the issues are. Is it family issue, personal issue, domestic issue, this issue? Now, social workers who are inner social workers are the ones who will be assigned with relevant clients. This client came in is domestic issue. There is a social worker inside who is an expert in domestic issue. Or this one coming is a community issue. It's an industrial issue. There are experts, there are specialists, social workers. Or if it is just like those who are in community development, there must be the front desk officer who receives visitors. And that person must have phone numbers, official phone numbers. That is what people call from outside from. They call that number from outside. That number is given to everybody. In fact, on radio, they can hear it. Everybody knows it. It can be on dictionary. I mean, what do they call it now? On Gazette, whatever. It can be on the internet. Thank you. It can be on the internet and all those things. Numbers are there. But when that person has been assigned to a social worker, that social worker now interact with the person. He cannot give that his own client that his own official number. That from that point, there's no middleman again. He has passed through the middleman, who is the front desk officer. From that point now, you are interacting with your client. Your client now give the client your own official number that you can use in calling you, but not your private number.
Okay.
Because you may not be there tomorrow. That client must not have anything to do with you if you are no longer there. But that client have that official number. When he calls, the next person who is handling that place or that office or that case is the person that will respond and call for his attention and tell him all the things that he needs for the engagement. So that is how it works.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
Hello,
sir.
sir.
Thank
I
you.
said that
Hello,
was the
sir.
last question. No.
I'm sorry, sir. That is, I just want to say something about what you are saying,
Okay,
sir. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir.
it's okay.
I want to talk about the issue of the phone number. You said we should not give the social worker number to the client. But what if the organization is not have any phone number to give the client? Who are they going to?
Have you made request for it? The problem is that many social workers don't know what their tools are. One of the tools of social worker for effectiveness is a phone, official phone and official number. If you don't have it, you request for it from the management. You write and request. This is what your work demands. One of the tools of your profession. But they will not. People will not write that. They'll be writing pure water and Coca-Cola.
Not like that, sir. Although we still try that because many have been doing it and we didn't see any.
No, when you tell your supervisors or the leader of your organization that you don't have phone for the clients, they will provide. Right, make it official. Right. Because you are asking with mouth. Write the first time, write the second time, write the third time, write the fourth time, write the fifth time, write for your needs.
So we should not relent.
Yes. It is because they don't know what social work is. They don't know what our tools are.
All right, sir.
If you don't
Thank
press
you so much,
for
sir.
them to see the need for it, they won't do it. It is we that will show people, to show organization what our tools are. You ask for camera. Camera is one of your tools. I said that we taught this one in foundation. Social work tools. We taught it in foundation. But because you didn't pass through foundation now, you have been exempted. We assume that at this level, you know all these things. And you must have been able to get to a point where you know your tools and you are utilizing them. So all these things you're asking now is foundation question.
All right, sir.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. Like I said, we'll continue from ethical boundary violation next week when we meet. So don't forget, next week you are submitting your group seminar paper. Oh, on 25th, is a reminder, 25th of this month, you are submitting your seminar paper. We are already winding down this diet, as you see like that. So, gear up. Those who have not paid their workshop exam fee, start doing so that you will not be caught in between the dilemma of being.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we call it a wrap. Thank you for being here. I'm still not satisfied. We have 40 people here on the lecture. Okay.
Okay, we appreciate it. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
I
Have
think we
a
reached
lovely
49
weekend,
today.
sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We're
Wonderful weekend.
actually 50. Some people left during the questions and answers, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We are grateful, sir.
Welcome.
Ẹ bá Akílé o.
Ṣé wàá gbọ́ o?